Everybody is Anthony Brogdon, and I'm coming at you. Oh my God, you're gonna like this one. Ooh, this is heavy. She the national president of her organization. You don't get no higher than that. That means a lot of people are impressed with her to have her in such a position. That means that she is dedicated to the cause to be in such a position. That means that she spends a lot of time, not just dedicated to be of the craft, but of instilling others the resources to be of the craft. You'll understand. I'm hitting around it. That also means personally, she's that kind of person. She's an icon within her community. I'm excited. Let me tell you something more, my friends. Is I was at a conference in Philadelphia. Now, y'all know I'm traveling. I'm out of my sphere, out of my box, and I'm traveling, I'm speaking and stuff like that. So they invited me to come down to this conference in Philadelphia. Man, everybody in there was heavyweights. I said, oh my God, I'm in the right place. And I couldn't believe it. And she was sitting there and everybody was crowded around her and everything. I said, dang, who is that lady? Because everybody else heavyweights, they crowded around her. So I waited my turn and I went up and introduced myself. And I told her about you all, my friends, the viewers here at Strong Inspiration. She said, come on, let's do it. And I'm excited. So hit the subscribe button on Strong Inspiration. You see how I'm handling things now. The game is up. The ship has left the dock even more so. And the boat is getting bigger by people like her who come on the show. Hit the like button. There is no love button, but let us know that you appreciate what we're doing. Hit the notifications bell so you get a ding, a shock, a smoke signal. Your dog kind of kicks you or something like that to let you know there is new content here. And every week, I'm releasing a new one. I recently released one with a lady that I met at the conference. I met this sister who her great, I don't know how many greats it was, grandfather was on the boat with George Washington. Mm-hmm. There was a black man on that boat. Mm-hmm. He was telling George which way to go. George was lost. You know how we do. And then they tried to discredit it and all that other stuff. You know, they don't want to give us the credit. But that I met one of his descendants. She's on the show. Watch that video. Watch the one I did with the lady who is, check this out, Madam C.J. Walker's great granddaughter, not great, but granddaughter. Mm-hmm. I got her on the show. And I'm going to get her back. I believe, I'm praying for it. She got a book out now. Mm-hmm. I just saw it. When I was walking in Philadelphia, I saw it in the bookstore window. And I said, oh, man, now's the time to hit her up again. I don't play with y'all, my friends. Did you see the one I did with the lady who talks about the trauma that Black people have been through? Mm-hmm. And in particular, not just because of slavery, but just throughout the generations. Mm-hmm. She is an attorney who deals in cases that are going in front of the authorities for the death penalty. Mm. I said, sister, how you deal with that every day? She said, I take walks and I pray to the Lord and so on and so forth. It's a tremendous interview. And then she also writes children's books. Watch that video. And there's so many more of them on here. So that's what I do. I'm a better person as a result of Strong Inspirations. There are things that I have learned here, and I know it's going to happen today, that I had no clue of. Black history is just not black and white. There's a whole bunch of gray area that because it's people involved. And that's one of the big lessons that I've learned. And so just a couple more things. Y'all know I'm serious about this situation. And I did a documentary on it. It's titled Business in the Black, The Rise of Black Business in America. I took this to over 40 cities across America on my own dime. And I had some big crowds, had some not so big crowds, but I was like Johnny Appleseed spewing this knowledge that I had come across. It is streaming on Amazon. I took it not one step further because a bunch of people said, please do such. I wrote a book on it. And this is the book. Get you a copy of this. Let me tell you, somebody said to me, and I like when they said it, This is America's #1 Black business history book. Boom shakalaka. Let me tell you, I believe in this book so much that if you read this and don't learn nothing too, I give your money back. You ever heard of a book with a money back guarantee? Well, here it is. It's that strong, everybody. It's over 200 facts. And it ain't just business. I gotta keep it real to tell you some of the things that the racists did to hurt black people. That's in the book. And I'm speaking around the country. I got one more. The lady is heavy, and I know she got to go, but I got to get this out to y'all. I got my own festival, Little Old Me, and I'm working in conjunction with the Black History Museum, but it's in Mount Bayou, Mississippi. Now, Mount Bayou has a storied history, a famed city in Black America, but in America in general. Well, the Black folks who founded it in 1887 come from one particular plantation. There's a dynamic to that. And they started this town, and it's thriving till today. So I'm going down there for their Founders Day, and we've added some seminars. I'm speaking. The keynote speaker is the former mayor of Tuskegee, Johnny Ford, and he's bringing his cohorts. So it's going to be a bunch of them mayoral type people, them geniuses in them political circles. They're going to be there, and others. So come down. That is listed on the website, mountbayumuseum.org. It's July 10, 11, 12. You can leave on the 13th because that's when I'm out of there because it's going to be 100 degrees. But nonetheless, and on Friday night, I two-step, right? In my best way I possibly can. We're going to have a party. We're going to drink some moonshine and we're going to eat some catfish. I'm going to suck some tobacco. All that. I don't mean no joke on the people. You know, I'm a big northern city boy. We're going to have a good time. So come. And now to get you a copy of the book, and learn all the way I'm speaking at, go to my website, businessintheblack.net. Now, you hear me use this term strong a lot. It's my favorite word. I wish my middle name was strong. And in my world, strong stands for strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. And that is my introduction to the Strong Soul Sister on the channel today. Come on, let's get it. I am really happy you are here.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Tell us your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is LaJoy Mosby, and I am the National President of the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society, Incorporated.
Ooh, I told you that's heavy. That's heavy. When you became, I want to get, but since you brought up, when you became the president, did you close your eyes and say, look how far I've come since the beginning?
No, I kind of accepted it as a task from the Almighty that I had been put in this position at this time to do certain things. And I enjoyed it, and I'm enjoying it. It is we've done a lot of good things over the last 2 years. We've improved our infrastructure. We've grown. We got a new website. We have just tried to do and introduce a lot of new things, processes, procedures,
Yeah,
streamlined, um, all of the inside stuff that people don't see. We wanted to
yeah.
take care of a great deal of that.
All
Make
right.
sure that we keep up, right?
Yeah, sure, sure. And I love that. And congratulations for being success in that. So before we go any more, and we're going to talk about that at left. I want my audience to get to know you just a tad. So where were you born and raised?
Yeah, I grew up in Alabama, and I was born in a place called Demopolis, and I grew up in a place called Anniston, Alabama. You know Anniston, Alabama from Eyes on the Prize, where they burned the freedom buses with the folks on it. You can see that on Eyes on the Prize. That's my hometown. I grew up in Anniston, Alabama, and then I went to Howard University um, for undergraduate, and I got my MBA from Howard University as well. So I've lived in what they call the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area for, wow, my gosh, well over 30 years now.
Growing up as you did, was it you grew up in a black neighborhood?
Well,
Yeah, that kind of
I don't
thing.
know how old I look, but yeah, the railroad tracks divide the town, and black folks lived on one side, and other folks lived on the other side, and so um, I had a very decent childhood.
Yeah,
The I don't think I ever felt like I was missing anything. My parents were teachers. I grew up in a neighborhood, a really decent neighborhood. In fact, I don't know that any of our side of town was undecent.
Yeah, okay.
Black churches, schools, community centers,
Yeah.
libraries. We had our own everything because that's how it was back then.
Now,
Uh,
how small was it though? The town is it? How many? What's the
Anniston,
population? What we talking?
at the time when I was growing up, it was about 30,000 people. So I guess if from a Detroit perspective, it was a tiny town. It didn't feel small at all because
Oh, really?
where I was
Okay.
born, there's 10,000 people today. So it felt like it was a thriving metropolis as far as I was concerned because I had not really been anywhere that was really large when I was growing up, other than maybe Birmingham, and
Yeah.
that was larger, but that was an hour away, and Atlanta's an hour away in the other direction. But most of the time that I was growing up, I spent in Alabama, or my father's mother lived in Kentucky, but in a small town right outside of Lexington, Kentucky. And so you know, both places were, as far as I was concerned, were idyllic. And, I enjoy growing up in the South.
I,
I mean, it had
I,
its challenges now. I mean, there were colored water fountains and we had to sit in the
oh,
balcony.
really? You remember seeing that?
Oh,
Really?
yeah, I was nine. I mean, it wasn't like it. I always tell people it wasn't that long ago. I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
I
no,
was
no
in
question.
Union High School still having to sit. I remember having this, we sat in the balcony at the theater because we were not allowed to sit downstairs. But, the reality of it is the balcony was the best seat in the house. So, in the restricting us from something, we actually, in my opinion, my personal opinion, had the better seat in the house. So.
All right. Well, I'm gonna stay on that because I'm a big city northern guy. Did you know that they did that because they didn't want white people to interact with black people? Or,
Sure, sure.
I know that's what it was, but did you understand that? Could you say why they hate us that much? Then is
Never.
that a question? Yeah.
No, I don't think I looked at it that way. I think when you grow up in it, it's just the way it is. And I don't recall ever wondering why someone didn't want to be around me. I don't think I think there was so much going on in our black neighborhood. I mean, we would go downtown, because of course you went downtown to shop and things like that. I don't remember. And I guess it just depends. And I don't remember a lot of terrible things going
Yeah.
on. And then, of course, we were all together. It didn't matter if you're a dentist or you worked at the pipe shop or you were a janitor.
Yeah.
You lived on the
Yeah.
same side of town, not necessarily on the same street,
Right.
but
Right.
on the
Right.
same side of town. And so people went to churches together. Um, they interacted together with the organizations that they belonged
Sure.
to, and et cetera.
Sure.
So I don't think that I ever had a sense of, I never felt inferior.
All
I
right.
never felt
That's
like I
gonna lead to
lacked
my next
anything.
question.
No.
I
Mm-mm.
keep it real here on the show.
Yeah,
Were you ever
no.
called the N word?
Yes, once. So we got caught up in, when they desegregated the schools, I got caught up in a zoning loop and I ended up across town and we were in band. I'll never forget. I was not in the marching band. We were ninth graders, so ninth graders didn't get to be in the marching band. But we were in band and we were talking about something. And
We
there,
being who? You and other students, I'm
me
sure.
and other students that were of different
Right.
races. And
Right.
so one guy he was, I think, I'm not sure what his ethnic background was, but he had curly hair, and we were talking about hair. And one of my other classmates who was trying to be snarky asked me how is it that you N-words do it? And
Now
I
this is a
didn't.
white person.
Yes. And
All
I
right.
remember looking at him and I think everybody in the room just stopped, paused, just caught their breath for a second. I just looked at him and just said, I just really wish you wouldn't talk like that. And then I went on back with my conversation. I think everybody exhaled and I just ignored him. We, I guess, didn't, I haven't, you see, I've never forgotten it. I don't know, I don't remember his name. But I think that it was an interesting situation. We had never had an issue before, but unfortunately, he was the guy that had been tapped to carry the Confederate flag in the marching band. and that was his claim to fame. And then there was a great deal
Oh,
of.
ho, ho, ho. Your band had a Confederate flag,
I
flag
grew up in
in
Alabama, Anthony. Of course, this was 19. What was this? Would have been 69.
it. Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't
They
my
had.
band. It was
I
the
know.
band. So there were two high schools. And so we ended up, when they desegregated the schools, there were two high schools. So they sent some of us over to the majority white high school. They had
Yeah,
a Confederate flag. The black school did not have a
I'm
Confederate flag.
sure. Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
understand.
So and there was a big fight about, I never forget it. There was a really big fight. And I remember me and a friend of mine sitting up in the bleachers because I'm not a fighter. We're sitting up in the bleachers watching these kids fight at a football game because of this Confederate flag. And of course they stopped carrying it, but there was a lot. It was just a lot.
Let me
Um,
ask you this: when the guy said that to you, do you think he said it because he was a racist, or he just didn't think that it meant anything, or
I think he was
his?
mad that so here's the thing, when you're in the ninth grade, this is how I rationalized it. And maybe I'm doing it wrong, but my the way I rationalized it was that his only claim to fame, he's a guy, was the fact that he was in the marching band. I don't think the fact that it was a Confederate flag meant a whole lot to him. What it meant to him is that he was in the marching band as a ninth grader, which gave you, made you kind of popular with the kids and all that
All
kind of
right,
stuff. And then,
okay.
of course, all of this was being taken from him because the flag, he would no longer be able to carry that flag. And I think
Oh,
essentially
really? Okay.
that meant that he would no longer be in the marching band because it wasn't like he was good enough
Oh,
to play an instrument in the band. That's how
oh,
I have rationalized it in my head, whether it's
yeah.
true or not. That's how I rationalized it in my head. And so I, I just felt like, that I'm not I'm not going to absorb your craziness.
Yes, yes,
This is
yes,
you.
yes,
This
yes,
is you.
yes.
I'm not gonna go off on something
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
you're
I
dealing with
got
what,
you.
but that's you. You
I,
deal with it.
I've long thought if somebody said that to me, and I could be wrong. I look at it like, man, I might have more money than you. I'm smarter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
smarter than you. So how
Yeah.
you think you can call me that word?
Yeah.
And I can look at you, and maybe I would get mad. I don't know because I think you had ill will in saying it. That leads to this: your father growing up there, did he face that too? Was he?
Well,
Did he know how to say yes sir, yes ma'am all the time to the white people and that kind of thing?
so my father grew up in Kentucky, and although my dad was a very my dad was a very celebrated athletic director. He's in the county and state hall of fame. There's a football stadium named after him in my
Oh,
hometown.
really? Okay.
But he was denied an opportunity. In 1973, when they fully desegregated the schools, and of course, they closed our school to turn it into a junior high, and everybody had to go to the other school. That was after I was in the last class to graduate from the black school. I went back to my regular school in 10th grade and graduated from Cobb Avenue High School.
All right.
And all the kids that were behind us ended up graduating from Anniston High School. Uh, my father had tenure. He had a master's degree from Columbia. He was a winning coach. He had taken teams to the state, even in the integrated, um, I guess, what do you call it? The
Yeah.
leagues,
Okay. Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when it came time to consolidate these two schools, there were two people. It was a young man who had a bachelor's degree. He was a young coach who was not a person of color. And my
Right.
father, who had been working many years, who had a master's degree from Columbia, who had tenure, who had the record, who had all of that.
Right.
And I just, being a naive kid, thought my dad would have gotten that job. And there was a lot of opposition to it, and they didn't give it to him. They made him the assistant principal at the junior high school instead. I think on the back end, my aunt, because I was a kid, on the back end, I don't know how you grew up, no matter, even though I was almost 18, you didn't get in the grown folks' business back in the
Yeah.
day. They
Yeah.
told you what they wanted you to hear. But
Yeah.
one of my aunts told me later in life that she said, your father, they paid your father they upped his salary. So to keep him, I suppose, from suing the school system. I remember that was the summer before I went away to college. It was a very,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's say it was very tense in my household that summer.
it was tense because he was mad about it. It was tense because he knew what they were doing.
Well, of course he knew what they were doing. I think
Yeah.
he was tense because, what do you do? Do you sue? The
Oh, I see.
NAACP
I
wanted to
see. I
sue. The
see what you're
community was
saying.
all up in arms about it.
Yeah,
There
I
was a
see
lot
what you're
going
saying.
on. What position how do you handle it?
Yes, I see what
And
you're
do
saying.
you leave town altogether and leave your tenure, et cetera? And my mother was also a school teacher. She didn't want to move, and there was a
Yes,
lot going on. I remember it as being a tough summer. I'll
yeah.
put it that way.
Let me ask you this. Did you ever think white people were better than black people? Because you saw what they had on the other side of the tracks. They
I don't
had
think
something
so.
more than you.
No, because I don't think I ever saw them as having a whole lot more. I
Oh,
mean,
really?
my parents bought a lot and built a house. I don't
Yeah, yeah,
know that
yeah, yeah.
we had two cars and a dog. I don't know that I saw these other kids having a tremendous amount more than I had. At least
Yeah,
not the kids that I came in
yeah, I
contact
got
with.
you. I got you.
And the people up on Blue Mountain, I never saw what they had until I never went up on Blue Mountain until I was in college. And even though their houses were nice, it never made me feel like I was
I got
lacking.
you.
And maybe that's how I was just raised. I wasn't raised to feel like I was inferior to anybody else or that
I
anyone
got you.
had a whole lot more than I had. And I'm sure people did. There were black people that had more than we than I had.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Okay,
I,
I got you.
I guess I was raised with I think also when you grow up in the deep South, you have parents that protect you from a lot of stuff. And so there's a lot of things that you're not even aware of. If you're not conscious of it, if it's not and it's not in your face, you don't necessarily see it. And you're in an all black community. So people take care of themselves. There was not hardly any crime, so there was, you're in living in a community where people took care of each other.
Let me ask you this. When you say take care of it, did he tell you though at some point, don't be over there at after dark?
No, because I
Uh
never
be,
went. Because I never went. There was no reason for me
oh
to go across town.
oh I got you. I
I
got
mean,
you.
I
I got
suppose I
you.
could have, but there
Yeah,
was
I
just
got you.
what was over there that I needed.
Yeah,
I
I
couldn't
got
get on
you.
my side of town, honestly. I mean, as
I
far as I
got
was
you.
concerned, I was not that kid. I
Yeah.
mean, we would go downtown, to the movies or to go shopping or anything like that. I don't know if it was ingrained in me that, there were things I should or should not do, but I just don't remember
I got
that
you.
being like,
I
oh
got
no,
you.
I can't go here
Yeah, I
but
got you.
or I want to go there just to see what it's like. Well, no, I got this right here. I don't need to go over there.
I got you. I got you.
And
But
I think about that sometimes and I wonder if I just lived in this bubble. Maybe I was living in this bubble, but it was a good bubble.
did you ever have to sit in the back of the bus?
We didn't take the bus. I don't ever remember being on a bus, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Does that make
Uh,
sense? Okay.
we're going to lead into what you do with this question. What did what was where's the plantation at the slavery at in your family? Is it further in Alabama? Do you know some of
Yeah.
that story? Yes.
Yes. So on my mother's side, it goes a couple of generations back, of course, to Hale County, Alabama, Greene County, Alabama, primarily some Marengo County, but mostly Hale County and Greene County.
Let me
Um,
stop you there. You say county instead of city. Why?
because there are no cities. I mean, the cities there are like almost non-existent. You're talking about rural, and it's still rural. Uh, if you're talking about, well, in Greene County, I guess you got Greensboro, but you got Alabama, it's very rural in Hale County where they were. It's rural. Ain't a whole lot out there, Anthony. Just not. Just not. I've been there. There's not a lot there. My family, after emancipation, that next generation left the agriculture. We didn't do agriculture very long.
You didn't share
And
crop or nothing like that, is what you
well,
did.
they did, but my two times great grandparents absolutely did. My great grandmother, who I did know, one of her brothers, a couple of her brothers actually did. They did work in agriculture, but there were others that did not. They left and they went to Birmingham. They worked in the mines. The 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 girls actually either worked as domestics or teachers, depending on which child you're talking about. But they left that agricultural community to go to small towns or big towns. So we grew up in towns. I always tell people my family never, I'm not aware that my family were big landowners, but they owned houses in small towns.
When you say just a tad, do you know of the enslavers?
On my father's side, yes. On my mother's side, I narrowing it down. I know I think so, but Alabama is a little bit harder to do, in my opinion. I have not been as successful as I should have been. I should be in my mind to connect those enslavers. But I'm working on the Alabama side. But the Kentucky side, yeah, I do know those enslavers. Yes.
Would you want to meet them
Yeah. Because
to say what?
I want the information that they have. I connected with one of the descendants on Ancestry. I haven't been as forthcoming because I wanted to get some advice on how best to interact with this person. And I did get that advice from one of the other genealogists who does a lot of workshops on from the enslaver descendant point of view and how to connect with people that were enslaved, but like I said, by your family. And so we talked, I'm like, how do I best approach this? And so we have initially connected, but not gone any further. And then my goal is to circle back to him and say, here, listen, this is what I need from you. And there are a lot of public records that I already have, but what I want to see, this is a family of lawyers. My thought is that they still own the land, the slave house is still there to this day.
Wow.
And it's like that in more places than people know.
Would you
A
want to
lot of people
visit
that
that?
own
Have
the
you
land.
visited?
I've been to the general area, but that's private property. And Anthony, down in Deep South, you don't ride up on anybody's private property unless you have permission.
Okay,
And
let me stop you there. When you say private property, there's got to be a road in front of us. You can
yeah, but it's
drive
still
down
their
that
road. I
road
mean, some
and
of these
see the
roads
house.
I've seen it on Google Earth, but I have not gone to the house itself. I know where it is. And so I'd love to see it with my own eyes, and it would be nice to do so. But I want to make sure that when that connection is made, that it's not made in such a way that people are wondering, are defensive about it. I don't want people to be thinking that I don't want anything from them but information. I don't need there's nothing that I need from them other than information.
Which
Other than
leads
I
to the
desire from them information. And so
okay, I got you.
I need to know, help verify the dates of all of these people. Do I have all of the children? I got this one daughter that I don't. She's we. It seems that she's a daughter, but we don't know where she doesn't figure into the equation. Who is she? Did she live with you all? If not, where does she come from? So I mean, it would having some of the what I call the farming ledgers. Did you give them? I'm sure you gave them blankets and shoes and things of that nature. I'd love to know how often that occurred. Uh, my father's paternal side, their last enslavers, not the first, the last enslavers, they gifted my two times great grandfather a partial land. And he had that land until he passed away, and it went up for a tax sale. His son, my great grandfather's older brother, bought the land in a tax sale and held on to it for a few years and then sold it back to the family that had gifted it to us for $1. That same family also purchased my two times great grandmother and the older children at an estate sale because they lived on an adjacent farm. And so they had actually purchased them earlier. I have often wondered if that was some type of what if there was an agreement because that land was deeded in 1873, and I wondered did he agree to work for them for an extended period of time for them being able to purchase his wife and two of his children. So I don't know that to be true. And I have, as one of my colleagues would say, don't make up the story. Find out if what it may have truly been.
I'm going to go back to just a second, and that's some deep stuff you just said. The talking with the enslavers' descendants. You can't just go up and say, "Hey, I'm a black person. Your people enslaved me, and I want to know some stuff." That ain't the right approach.
No.
I
I
understand
wouldn't
that
do
because then
that.
that,
I wouldn't
yeah,
do
yeah,
that. I would
and
be very
I've had
uncomfortable
people tell
doing
me
that.
that that is kind of they didn't do it harshly, and I was doing it
Yeah.
for dramatic effect, but they didn't know how to do it. And you alluded to what they might think you're doing it for, reparations, what have you. I'm sure that'd be their first thought.
Hmm.
But then there have been instances where people have met with the
Yes.
enslavers and they've become even almost friendly,
Yes.
I would think.
Yes. Yes.
It all depends on the two people and the enslaver, what's his attitude about it, so on and so
It
forth.
depends on you connecting with the right family member. You have to connect with the right family member. Now, remember, you got a fair amount of people usually in the family, but you need to connect with someone who has no qualms about it, who has
Right?
made peace with this idea that the family owns slaves. I mean, some people are so disheartened by the idea that they feel very burdened by it.
Oh,
And
really? Okay.
some, not all,
Hold on, let me explain it. Some of the white people say, "I wish he had not done that." Is that to the are they to that extent?
no, well, I would say that they have discovered that their ancestor enslaved people, and it makes them feel bad about the situation.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
I
I
cannot say
interviewed a
that's
guy
everybody, that we've encountered people that have said that to us. Yes.
because I interviewed a guy out of Scotland. He wrote a book about his family as the largest enslavers in Barbados,
Mm-hmm.
and his family know this story.
Mm-hmm.
Those older than him, what have you. He
Mm-hmm.
never heard it. He just happened to find some papers in the basement. And
Mm-hmm.
he's embarrassed by it. But he wrote a
Mm-hmm.
book and he says, I can't make a dime off of this book. This is what he tells me. I don't know for sure. So that is one dynamic of how they feel. The other dynamic could be, I'm happy that my people did that, and I'm a racist behind it.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I've not encountered anybody that's ever said that.
Oh, really? Okay.
The reality of it is there are people who would probably take the position is that it was the mode of business and
At the
commerce at
time.
the
Yeah,
time,
yeah, yeah.
and therefore I'm not going to be embarrassed. They would might not want to be embarrassed about it because not only did they not do it, this is what everybody apparently was doing at
Yeah.
one point. I mean, we do have to remember that before there was a United States of America, when we were a British colony, that all 13 original colonies had enslaved people, all from Georgia to New Hampshire. So this notion of North versus South really doesn't hold as much water as people think it does, because there was enslaved people in all those places. It's just that in those northern states, they gradually emancipated people. And that emancipation, if you actually look at those laws, it was, I think there were very few states, Massachusetts may have been one of them, that said, okay, you're free. But and don't quote me on that, look it up because but I will say that with some of them there was gradual emancipation. So people were enslaved long for a long time. Or what they would do, they would free the people who were older because they've gotten your utility and all your usefulness out of you, but your children would be enslaved until they were 25. I can honestly say that what surprised me was about New Jersey. They were still enslaved in New Jersey in the 1840s because of the gradual law. And there's a whole group in New Jersey of people that are working to um, connect descendants to a group of people that were literally tricked into being so south from New Jersey, I think in the 1840s. And those people ended up in Louisiana somewhere because some official decided to do that. So I think we have to broaden our minds when it comes to enslavement. It evolved over time. You have to remember, Florida was not a part of the United States for a long time. So when people were trying to get free in the 1700s, they were running to Florida.
That's right.
They weren't
That's right.
running north. There was no north. They were running to
Yeah, right.
Florida.
That's right. That's right.
You know, and of course, you know, when you think about Michigan, people always think people were going to Philadelphia or Ohio, but people were also going to Michigan.
Yep.
The History Channel did a nice series on the Underground Railroad a few years ago where they looked at each of the different roads people would take. They looked at people going to Florida, they looked at people going to Mexico, they looked at people going like up to Michigan and certain parts of
Canada.
Illinois, as well as people going to Philadelphia, going all the way up to New York and to Canada. Um, and you know, you had that. Um, and so we have to I really wish we did a better job of telling the full story of American history in America.
Are you? And we're gonna go into this. You are a how you pronounce genealogist.
I consider myself a family history researcher. And yes, I mean, there would be some that would say that I'm a genealogist. I'm not a certified genealogist. I consider myself a
There's
family
such a
history
title
researcher.
as that.
Beg pardon?
There's such a title as certified
Oh,
genealogist.
yeah, there is.
To do that, you've gone to school.
No, but there is a certification process. You can go through the board for certification of genealogy. You can go through, there's another group called I think it's the ICANN. They're different. It takes a minute to get certified, more than a minute. You're writing, you're either getting tested. There's a lot of things that you're doing in order to become a certified genealogist. And you go through you have to meet uh, standards and go through a period of time. And usually, for most people, it takes about a year
Okay.
to be certified.
Can you get a degree in this?
Not
Like
a
the college?
degree. No, it's not a degree, but
No,
you get, it's like
colleges
the
don't
seal of
offer
it's kind of like
degrees.
the seal of approval. It means that
I got you.
you've been before a group that has indicated that you have the skill sets that say that you know how to do this work.
Have you as a result, are you a historian also?
I don't consider myself a historian. I don't think a historian would consider me a historian. Most of the historians that I know are PhDs, and they have a PhD in history, and they have studied and written countless things, you know, on a variety of topics. I have published an article about my family. I do know a lot of history because I try to understand the history in the context of the genealogy, in you having understanding what was going on in America, in the state, in the county, or the town where your family lived is important. To me, to do genealogy without having some type of historical context, um, it leaves you with a hole. You need to know what was going on. For example,
I
if your
got you.
family
Yeah.
ended up in Kansas, why did they go to Kansas? You know, what was going on in Kansas at the time? You know, you have that exodusters movement. So yes, I read a lot. I try to understand a lot of historical facts around African Americans, but not only African Americans, but Americans in general. Like, for example, when you were in Philadelphia, there's still people who don't recognize the fact that African Americans played a significant role in the American Revolution, that we have names of what 5 to 8 thousand African Americans, both free and enslaved, as well as Native Americans who served under George Washington. You know, we say this thing, African Americans have participated in every conflict in the United States but when you people put up the images, they don't put up the American Revolution. They start with the Civil War. Well, that's not true. You're forgetting a whole group of people who were
Yeah.
there, and the colonial period is a harder period to research because the records are not as they're plentiful, but they're not necessarily as easy to come by as because people weren't keeping records in a standard way during the colonial period the way they were doing in later. Let's say
I
put it
got
that
you.
way.
I got you.
But that doesn't mean they don't exist because they
Yeah,
do.
I got you.
Hmm.
With that said, is all your and you've alluded to all your research is not your family it's based on your family as to why your family did things and the conditions that happened around it within the communities and so on. So that's taking it to another level. That's not just saying my dad went somewhere and this and but you want to know why he went there
Yeah.
and that okay, I love that. As a result of that, do you hire yourself out to other people to hire to do genealogy on their families?
I do not because I don't have the time.
Okay,
And
okay.
my thing is, I mean, I consider myself more of a coach. I'm not somebody that wants to do other people's research. There are people that do that for a
Yeah,
living.
that's what I would think. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, but I haven't hung out my shingle yet because I really don't have the time. And when I do, it would be a coaching service. I want people to be able to do there is something to be said about doing your own research and making the discoveries yourself. And we get that people feel like they don't have the time to do it. But there is something to be said for doing it, even if you learn how to do it as a group. Say, for example, you decide to get a few interested cousins together and you guys do it as a group. Maybe each person will research one line and you get together once a month and talk about your discoveries, or every other month talk about your discoveries. You can get it done. There are families that do that. And maybe when you get to a certain point, you all come together and say, Look, we all need to hire somebody." And then at that point, you go to the Association for Professional Genealogists and look for someone who does African American research and also researches the state that you're trying to do your research in. The records, you need to know the records sometimes in that particular state, what's available in that state. I mean, you can find out a lot of things about what's available on Family Search. They have something called a Family Search Wiki where you can look up the state. It tells you when they started standardizing, when they started collecting like death records and birth records and requiring counties to do this, and when the counties actually started doing it, and things of that nature. And so it helps you to also understand what counties have what, and what kind of information you need and where that information might live. It may not be online. It might be in a file cabinet somewhere. And it may be
excellent.
such that you have to hire somebody to go look in that file cabinet for you and scan that information and either email it or mail it to you. And of course, you have to
Yeah,
pay the person to do that. I mean, it could be as simple as that,
yeah.
or it could be that you actually hire somebody and say, "Listen, I need you to find my three times great grandmother." I have a friend who's in Atlanta, one of my colleagues, who used to be a neighbor of mine, and says, "I need your help." And I'm like, "I let me help you find somebody," because the person that he was the place that they were researching was Missouri. And so we were able to identify somebody through AP Gen for him, and they found some information that the family did not have, and that was a success for them. I
Let me
think.
ask you this:
Mhm.
in your research of your family, what was there? Let's say the first one that was the ha ha for you was like, "Ooh, I'm on to something here," and you stumbled across it. Is there one of those notes that you can share with us?
Well, I think for me it was, we learn, and I took classes at my community college. I've taken several genealogy institutes just to make sure I know how to do what I'm doing. But for me, it was finding the first enslaver, not the last. The last enslaver on my dad's parents' side was German. We didn't take that surname. We took this. I'm like, okay, where did we get this name from? And when you look at the 1870 census, there was nobody with the Mosby surname anywhere in several pages before, okay, what's going on here? And there were very few black families on that page, there were only two. I'm like, okay. It's come to find what the aha moment for me was, how did I end up doing that? The researching people that had the same surname that lived in that area, and finding two people who were U.S. colored troop soldiers who had that served in the Union Army during the Civil War, and they had submitted pensions. Went down to the National Archives, looked in those pension records, and it opened the door for me because those here you have depositions, you have narratives, you have from the person themselves, you have handwritten letters, you have all of this 19th century information in these folders that's down at the National Archives. And you don't have to wear white gloves to look at it. And here you are looking at something that was written in the 1800s, so the early 1900s, and where someone says, this is, I am this person. My enslaver's name was this. This is my father, and we worked together, and his name was this. These are the people who knew me at that time. Because when these African Americans went to get their pension, there were like four pension laws. And I think it was the last two, unless you were killed or maimed in action, it was the last, I think the last pension law where many of the men who served in the Union Army were able to actually get pensions. And they were able to get them. They were like $12 or whatever. That was good money back in the day, I suppose. But, it allowed them to, as they were getting older, to have some level of income, especially if they were, there was no such thing as Social Security till 1935. So, you had to have some level of income. You had to work, you had to live. But there was so much in those pension files, just they open the door in
Okay.
many, many ways. And it helped me understand who was who. And then once I realized, oh, okay, this person, this name was right there on the census, two doors down, and started looking for information on that person and realized his first wife was a Mosby. Realized that her father had died and without a will. All of the children were provided land and slaves, and the enslaved person she got was my two times great grandfather, who always
Wow.
lived, who kept the Mosby surname, and as did all his sons. So,
Wow.
I've been able to look at the names of the enslaved people for that family going back to 1782. And I have the names of all the enslaved persons. So I have a spreadsheet where how as the slaves got moved to the wife and to the children and to the generations, just trying to see who is who and looking at the names and trying to figure out who's who is whose mother. And sometimes they will
Right,
say
right,
so and so son of Millie or son of this or the daughter of this person. And it
right,
just depends, and so
right.
it's sometimes knocking down one little door will open wide a variety of situations. Is the same way with my dad's mother's side. And death certificates, if the information is correct, whoo, it takes you back generations. And so
Yeah, I
dad's
got you.
mother's side, I've been able to find lots of good folks and back into
Right.
the enslavement as well. Hmm.
Let me ask you this. I've interviewed a couple of people who have gone back to Africa. Would you want to go back? That I mean, how difficult is that to go to? Like they said, they saw him off the slave. They saw the name come off the slave ship or something like that. What's your take
I
on
think
that?
it's very difficult to do, but I mean, I've known people who have connected with African descendants through DNA, but they don't know the connection. So they know this person in Africa is their relative, but they don't know how they connect to each other. They don't know who that person was that was on that ship. I mean, there is what is it called? Slavevoyages.org, I believe, that has ship manifests and things of that nature. Some of that's online. Um, I think that for the most part, it just depends.
Yeah,
I'm not as focused on. I really am trying to find out more about the people who ended up here.
I got
I'm not, I have not made found a DNA connection to Africa yet. At least I haven't seen one.
I got you.
Now, but I know people that have, and they've been to
Yeah,
Africa, they've met that person, but they
yeah,
just still don't know yet what was the locus that between the two. Who was the
yeah,
person that got here that was descended from that
yes.
person that, you know, so and they're still working on that.
I got
But
a guy. This is how proficient we are here at Strong Inspirations. I got a guy on the show who's it was his great grandfather that was on the Catilda.
oh yeah.
And I mean, because it's so late in the process
Mm-hmm.
in the years, and he lives in Africatown, Alabama.
Mm-hmm. In Mobile, Alabama,
Mobile.
yeah.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep, he does that. So his name is Darren Patterson. Everybody watch that video.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about it. Just a couple more. So what got you involved in this, and how did you get to become the president?
Okay. So for genealogy in general, it was Roots, watching Roots when I was in college. That got me into genealogy. And then it occurred to me after the show was over that my great grandmother, who had died 2 years before, uh, her parents were enslaved. And I missed an opportunity to talk to her about it because she never talked about her life as a young person. And foolish me never thought to ask her. And I guess neither of my aunts and uncles who knew her when she was younger. In terms of OGS, as we say, as we call ourselves, I've been a member since 2000. I got active in the local chapter here around 2012. I became chapter president at the local level in 2018 and started working on some national committees. I was national nominating chair. I worked on the strategic planning team. I was on the National Conference Committee for 2019. And just, I don't know that at the time that that my, that I was aiming to be national president, but I think, you know, um, over time it evolved that way.
Yeah, I got you.
And
Did
I
did
ended up being nominated. And yeah. Mhm.
did so the organization was founded when, and what's some of the history about
Sure. The organization was founded in 1977 in Washington, D.C. Our lead founder was a gentleman named Mr. James Dent Walker. Mr. Walker passed away in 1993, but he worked at the National Archives. He was the expert in military records from the American Revolution, I think, all the way up to World War One. He um, was just prolific in his ability to find the African Americans in those records. He had worked with Alex Haley before while he was working on Roots in terms of looking for information. Mr. Walker was a member of the National Genealogical Society. He was their second VP at one time. He's in their Hall of Fame. He was on the board of the certification for genealogists at one point. He's just a prolific gentleman in terms of his ability and this notion that we as African Americans have a history, we should explore it. So we have there are seven founders. There are three still living. Two of them are retired college professors. One was at Morgan, one was at Howard. Dr. Elizabeth Clark Lewis. Dr. Newman Ham was at Morgan. And we have another lady who was out in Spokane, Washington, Miss Greenlee, who's an educator. But we had all of the founders were prolific. They were writers. Miss Sampson Scott was able to take her family back all the way, I think, to the 17 or at least at 1700s or 1600s. They all, I think, had this shared interest and making sure that African Americans in particular understood that you have a history and that it's very important. I always think about the fact that uh, we as African Americans and Black folks been having family reunions for generations. There are
it?
families that have always done this,
Right.
and then there are families that don't.
That's right.
And so, but I think that we owe it to ourselves to explore it. There is power in knowing your family history. There's
Mm,
power in knowing you. Sometimes you have people that think they're the first to do something in their family. You're not. You just don't know.
yeah, I love it. There you go.
Maybe you think you're the first that went to college,
Yeah,
maybe not. Maybe there was a great aunt or a great grandmother or great grandfather that actually went to college, or
yeah,
somebody that had a business. Or maybe because your family migrated from the Deep South in one of the migration periods, that you're not aware that your family at one point owned hundreds of acres of land.
that's right.
And maybe the reason you don't know and the reason you don't still have it, it's not necessarily because it could have been because it was lost to developers or to eminent domain, but it also could have been because the people that left didn't want to help pay the taxes. And the people that were there couldn't pay the taxes. And so they lost the land that somebody worked really, really hard. And
Now you all, excuse me, you all have chapters across the
we
country.
do. We
Okay.
have 33 chapters nationwide. Um, We are mostly, most of them are east of the Mississippi, but we do have a few west of the Mississippi. And we have organizational members. So there are a lot of African American genealogy groups around the country. A lot of them focus on the local or state level, and some of them are organizational members of OGS. They may not be chapters, but there might be organizational members, and some of their members are members of OGS. And so, becoming part of and I always believe that people should belong to a national organization. You should also belong to a local organization as well, because that has you right there, working with people in a variety of ways. But having that national membership allows you to have an idea of what's going on, just in general. We do online workshops. We have national conferences. We're doing monthly webinars. We're getting ready to gear up to do even more online. The pandemic was a curse and a blessing at the same time because it gave us this technology that allows me to be talking to you today.
Right.
And we're going to try to utilize it to make sure that our people have an opportunity to learn how to research more. What people really they want is help with their research. I can provide you with webinars, which we do, really good ones. But what you really want is to sit, like say online with a group of people and talk about your brick wall, or how do I get from point A to point B. And a lot of times we also tell people to read. Reading is fundamental, but you and I grew up reading because
Right.
that's what we did.
Right.
Younger people we find don't read quite as much. We like read, or
Right.
either if you don't want to read, go to YouTube. You can
Right.
find a lot of wonderful people on YouTube. Our partners, Ancestry and Family Search, have great webinars. Allen County Library has great webinars. You need to be able to learn how to apply what you see to your personal research. It can be done.
Okay. I love it. Your
Mhm.
your is it you all have a white national counterpart. What's their name?
They're called the National Genealogical Society is
Okay.
120 years old. So they've
Okay.
been around here a lot longer than we have. But like I said, our founder was active in that
And
organization
that okay.
prior to our organization being developed.
Would you love to and I'm sure you're gonna say yes, have more chapters?
Of course. We'd love
Okay.
to have more chapters. We'd love to have more members. We have a couple of thousand members, but we'd love to have more. We'd love to continue to expand, but we also know that the organizations that have been around for a long time doing this at the local level can easily become an organizational member of OGS. Because becoming a chapter means that you do have to go through a process to become a chapter of OGS. Usually, if you wanted to start a chapter, you would need 10 people to pay national dues. You have to do bylaws, you need articles of incorporation, you need to
Yeah.
be registered with the state. It's the whole process because you're becoming a nonprofit,
Yeah,
essentially.
sure.
But if you have an established organization and you've been doing this for a while and you're established, it makes more sense for you to become an organizational member. And you pay the organization becomes a member of OGS and then the members of your organization can then also individually become members of the organization as well. And so that's another way to go about it.
What is when is your national convention? Has it happened already?
Our national conference is in October. October is Family History Month, so we will be in Charleston, South Carolina,
Okay.
October the 9th through the 11th. I should say the 7th through the 11th because we have pre-conference tours on the 7th and the 8th, but the conference itself is the 9th, 10th, and 11th of October.
Just a couple more. Are there national organizations? I mean, not international organizations like yours. Is there like I know I've interviewed again. It's a plug for Strong. The lady who does the genealogy in Europe in the UK. It's a
hmm
sister. Just got the position.
hmm
I don't know if there's a society there, but is there other societies worldwide that like in Brazil? Would you all like to become international arm or any of that kind of?
So I don't think there are organizations. Let me say this: I'm not aware of international organizations. We do have members that are in the Caribbean because we have some of our chapters, especially in New York and Atlanta, have special interest groups that are Afro-Caribbean focused. Um, The I think when you talk about Brazil, you talk about a language issue there because they do.
Yeah,
I just got an email from somebody from Brazil the other day that's written in
yeah, Portuguese. Yeah,
Portuguese, and I had to translate it. Luckily, one of my old boss is Brazilian, so I'm going to
right,
have him help me craft the response because the person says they don't speak English.
right.
I think that right now we just want to make sure that we grow west of the Mississippi. We really want
Okay.
to really increase our membership west of the Mississippi, but we don't turn away any membership now.
Yeah, yeah, sure,
You
sure.
know, we have had some interactions with the folks in Nova Scotia at the Institute in the museum there. When we had in 22, we focused on the Revolutionary War, and we talked about the um, you've heard about the miniseries called Book of Negroes, where there were
Yep, yep,
3,000 Black
yep,
people and
yep,
they ended up in
yep.
Nova Scotia, or either
Right.
London or Sierra Leone. So, you know, we did we live streamed a speaker from Canada. And so we have some connections, but not we're not I wouldn't call us as international as you're thinking at this point.
I got you.
That's an aspiration, you might say.
I love it. What's your website?
It's augs.org. It's AAH as in Harry, G as in George, S as in Sarah.org. AAHGS.org.
And that stands for.
Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society Incorporated.
There you go. All right. One more. Is there a question I have not asked you, or something that, like in closing, you want people to want the people to know,
I
whatever,
want
whatever.
I want people to know that there is power in knowing. And we'd like you to join us in Charleston this fall. Come on down. We have 48 workshops. We have pre-conference tours. We have some really wonderful speakers. We're going to have an open plenary that, well, not open. My opening plenary will focus on the Gullah Geechee culture of the Charleston area of the Low Country. We want you to come and learn new things. Come see our exhibitors, Ancestry and Family Search, and 10 Million Names or American Ancestors will be there. There'll be several organizations there. Come network. You might meet a cousin. You never can tell. Every time somebody goes to one of these events, they seem to be meeting. I never meet a cousin, but everybody else seems to meet someone
Mm.
that they are either connected to via DNA or an aunt or uncle or great grandfather or something to that. But it's a wonderful organization. Um, it there is power in knowing. There
Right.
is power in connection. A lot of people talk about erasure, but it doesn't have to be erasure. We have to make sure that we uh, know our own family history and we know the history of our communities so that we can not let that history go away.
There you go.
Mhm.
Boom. That's it, everybody. Strong inspiration. My God, did I tell you it was good? The national president, the head honcho, all them big titles. He has strong inspirations. So hit the subscribe button. It's free. This is free Black history. Ain't charging you nothing. And check it out. You in them schools, let the kids see this. Matter of fact, you can move the cursor and get past me and go straight to who you want them to hear. Do that, my friends. Hit the like button. There is no love button, but I know you loved it. Hit the notifications bell for when the videos come up. You heard what I said before. You'll be notified. Tell somebody about Strong Inspirations. And do this. Go to their website. Follow up with them. Go down there to Charleston. I was just a mile, now, an hour away from Charleston a month ago when I was in Buford. Went to the Gullah Geechee Festival.
Mhm.
I got
Mhm.
people. I'm gonna send you emails,
Okay.
and so on and so on. Learn this history. Learn about your family, and get them family reunions. If you haven't been doing it, get them back up and start
Yeah.
getting to know your peoples and all that other stuff. It'll make you a better person.
Yeah.
You won't act crazy that weekend, at least at that moment. And then to you, go to their website, go to my website, get you a copy of the book, watch the movie, hear where I'm speaking at, so on and so forth, and go to their website. And then to you, my sister, and I mean this with all sincerity, I want you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind. I love who you become because somehow out of them small towns in Alabama, you heard something. Somebody said something to you, and you got to, I want to know more about my family, and I want to help other people learn that. And you took the mantle and did very well with it. You're an icon in that community. That's what everybody tells me. That's why when I was sitting there, all the people were surrounded around you, and you just talking, and they just listening. It was evident you in the right place. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for being who you are and doing what you do. Keep doing it, and I'll stay in touch. Thank you for coming on Strong Inspirations.
Thank you so much.